Hello! Welcome again to Bible Story Children's Time. Today's Thursday. We've made it through another week of stories. So, today we're going to do something a little bit different. When I was leaving our house a little while ago, my daughter asked what we would be talking about today, and I said, well, we would be talking about more stories from the Gospels. Actually, what I told her was we'd be talking about Jesus stuff. But then, on the way here, I realized there was something else that we should talk about. Something Old Testament. Something extremely, vitally important. Did you know that today is International Left-Handers Day? This is the day set aside to celebrate people who are left-handed. You know, like I'm one. Maybe you're one too. There's a 1 in 10 chance that you're left-handed. Now, when I was growing up, a very long time ago, being left-handed was kind of looked down upon. And in fact, my grandmother, who was very old school German, she tried to teach me not to be left-handed. Like when I was learning to feed myself, she would always put the spoon in my right hand. And then I would just very carefully take it, put it in my left hand, and I would eat. The one place where I did learn to do things right-handed was any kind of athletics, like throwing a ball or anything like that. I learned that from my brother, who was right-handed. And for me, doing that left-handed is really awkward. But writing, everything else I do with, with the figures, where handedness figures, is done left-handed. Now, I mentioned my grandmother. In my grandmother's time, they didn't look favorably on right-handed people, or on left-handed people. And the same was true in biblical times. Going back thousands of years, left-handed people were viewed as being a little bit strange. Now, there are reasons for left-handedness not being desirable. One is that let me describe it this way. The way people ate formerly in those days is they would recline. Not recline the way we think of it, like reclining in bed, but they would lay on their side on a kind of like a couch type thing. And they would lay on their left side and they would eat with their right hands. So the right hand was reserved for eating. Also reserved for those who knew how to write, it was reserved for writing. Left hand, because it was viewed unfavorably, was left for doing unfavorable things. We're not going to get into detail, but for instance, using the bathroom. When you used a hand, you used your left hand, which really discouraged people from using your left hand to eat, too. But also, weapons were made for right-handed people, for the most part. And that's a tradition that carries on to today. I mean, tools are almost, unless you're looking specifically for one, tools are almost universally made for right-handed people. A chainsaw. If you're trying to use one left hand and you're left-handed and you're trying to use it, it's tricky. Even something as simple as a pair of scissors. If you are left-handed and you're trying to use a pair of normal scissors that are made for right-handed people, they're very difficult to cut with. And as I said, this figured back in the old days, tools and weapons were designed for right-handed people. Now, the flip side of that is that a left-handed person going up against a right-handed person with a sword actually faced an advantage, or had an advantage, because 90% of the population is right-handed. So when they were trying to fight with a sword, they were used to fighting somebody right-handed, so they were kind of like opposite each other with their strong hands. If I'm standing here and there's a person standing across from me, facing me, they're using their right hand, they're reaching in this way, I'm using my right hand, I'm reaching in this way. And when you have swords and stuff like that, you fight in a particular way. If you're left-handed, it throws all that out the window. And the person you're fighting against is not experienced in doing that, but you are. So you do have an advantage there. That's one of the few places where you actually have an advantage in being left-handed. Pretty much everywhere else in tool use or in weapons use, it's not an advantage. There were exceptions. In the book of Judges, chapter 20, verse 16, this is Old Testament, remember, there is a passage about soldiers from the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin was one of the original 12 tribes of Israel. And these 700 Benjamites had been taught how to use a sling, and they were left-handed. So they could sling with their left hand, and their accuracy was said to be so good that they could nail a hare with a slung stone. So that's pretty cool. It's probably an exaggeration, but it's pretty cool. Now, at another time, after David had been kicked out of the palace by Saul, and he was actually, on the run trying to stay alive, he was joined by a couple of dozen warriors who were both right and left-handed. So they were left-handed, but they could also use their right hands. They also were Benjamites from the tribe. They were from the tribe of Benjamin. And left-handed people are mentioned one other time in the Old Testament. And that's in a story that comes from the book of Judges, chapter 3. And I'll tell you the story. The people of Israel had strayed from God. So God allowed the king of the Moabites, or the Moabite tribe, I should say, allowed them to come and take over Israel. The king was a dude named Eglon. And he conquered Israel, ruled for 18 years. And the people wept, and they prayed, and they cried, and they asked the Lord for deliverance. And the Lord finally heard them. And there was a certain Benjamite, once again, gentleman from the tribe of Benjamin, who got inspired to do something about it. He had a special double-edged sword made that was about 18 inches long. And he strapped it to his right thigh under his clothing. And then we're told in Judges chapter 3 that he went to see King Eglon and brought tribute to him. Tribute was sort of like a tax that was demanded by a conquering king. It was a tax, or it was protection money. Protection money is probably a better way of thinking of it, where you have to give him something so he doesn't attack you. But he went and he knelt before King Eglon and gave him tribute. And then he got up to leave, and he had gotten to the door when all of a sudden he stopped and went, "Oh, wait. Your Highness, I don't know what I was thinking. I have a secret message for you." And King Eglon cleared the room, cleared everybody out of his private room, and said, "Okay, come here. Ehud," the man's name was Ehud. "Come here, Ehud, tell me your secret message." So Ehud walked up to King Eglon while he was sitting. And as he approached, King Eglon rose to hear the message. And Ehud delivered the message. And it wasn't secret. At least not for long. Because he drew this 18-inch sword out from under his clothing and stabbed King Eglon in the stomach. Now, this wonderful bit of detail from Judges said that the king was very, very heavy. So Ehud stuck the sword in so hard that the fat closed over and the thing was stuck inside him. And pretty much that was the story for King Eglon. Ehud locked all the doors, went out on the porch over the side. And after he had been gone for a while, the servants came around and they found the door locked, and they thought, "Oh, I guess the king is maybe relieving himself." Because they would typically, lock the door for some privacy for that. But then it got to be longer, and they're watching the clock, and they say, "Well, it's been a long time. What do you think?" So finally they forced the door open, and they went in, and there was King Eglon dead. And Ehud got away. They rose up, and they freed themselves from the Moabites. And the land was peaceful for 80 years after that, due to a left-hander. So, 3 times left-handers are mentioned in the Old Testament, and every time they are from the tribe of Benjamin. Which really makes you wonder, were they more prone to being left-handed? Nobody really knows. We don't have a good way to find that out. But it does tell us that left-handers, even though we have more accidents, even though our accident mortality rate is higher, because the rest of you people keep designing stuff for right-handers, even though all that, we still make a contribution to society. So maybe that's a bit of a reach. But we do make a contribution. And if you're left-handed, you can be proud today, along with all the other left-handed people in this world. So with that in mind, knowing that you are celebrated 3 times in the Old Testament, I want you to rejoice for your left-handedness, and the rest of this afternoon, stay healthy and stay safe, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you here on Monday, when we will be doing Jesus stuff. Take care.